Well, hello, I'm David Freeman with Is That Really in the Bible? Question: if God spoke to you and told you to do something, would you do it? I mean, if you, now let me preface this, let me say this. If you really knew it was from God, would you do it? I mean, if you heard a voice. Now, I know that there's all kinds of people go around, the Lord spoke to me and told me to do this, told me to do that. But if you knew, there was no doubt in your mind that God had told you to do something. My question is, would you do it? Now, I know I would like to say, yes, I would do it if I knew it was from God. But then we have the example of Adam and Eve, who walked with God, who talked with God, where God was a regular visitor in the Garden of Eden, where they had a friendship going on. And God told them specifically not to do something. And he said, of all the trees that are in the garden, you may freely eat. Now there must have been hundreds of them. Hundreds of trees they could eat from. But the one, just one, now get this, just one, don't eat of it. And like a spoiled brat, that if you take a child and put him in a room full of toys, 100 toys, and surround him with 100 toys, and then take one toy, the ugliest one, the most disgusting toy, and put a red sticker on it and say, now you can play with all these other toys, these nice brand new toys, but that one dilapidated piece of junk with the red sticker on it, don't play with it. And you go out as a parent and you just look and see, behind the glass or whatever, leave the child alone. Eventually, you know what the child's going to do, don't you? That child is going to start gravitating toward that one clunker junk piece of a toy with a red sticker on it. Why? Well, because you told him not to. All right, that's the way it works. Okay. So God spoke to them and told them not to do something. And they did it anyway. Now I know, though, I will say this, they had a good excuse because they were deceived. In other words, this was an incredible, being that was deceiving them. Lucifer, an archangel that rebelled against God, who come along and says, has God said? And then, of course, the woman begins to reason. Worst thing you can do. Worst thing, it's like reasoning with a used car salesman. It's like reasoning with a salesman that knocks on your door. Well, no, God has said that we can do this, but we can't do that over there. And she begins, and then the battle is lost right there. It was lost right there. So they were both deceived as far as the reason they didn't do what God told them to do. Now, I want to look at a man in the Bible who was not deceived and still didn't do what God told him to do. He arrogantly, with a high hand, presumptuously, as the Bible says, went against and didn't do what God told him to do. He did not listen to God. He did not do what God told him to do. In fact, he actually almost starts to correct God and say, I'm not going to do it. Yeah. Now, this is just not any man. This is not just your run-of-the-mill man in the Bible that you read about. This was a disciple. This was an apostle. His name was Peter.